Welcome to another episode of SEO Science. I'm Richie Billing from Billion Media Digital Marketing, and this is Joe Greenslade from Sequence SEO. Welcome, Joe.
Hi, Rich. Thanks for having me back again, mate.
Oh no, good to chat with you as always. Last time we got stuck into backlinks, and we were talking a bit about what they are, why they're important, and a few best practice techniques as well, which we are going to go into more detail as we cover it in more depth. But today we're looking at something that nobody likes to do, which is find backlinks, find the opportunities, negotiate with webmasters, all that kind of stuff. And that's why I think the whole reason why nobody likes to do this job is because it's really time consuming. It's not easy. There's a lot of analysis involved. And that's why there's so many agencies sprouted up that offer backlink services, which has become like a real lucrative part of the industry. And that's where you're based, isn't it, Joe? In that neck of the woods.
Yeah, do a lot of backlinks for my clients primarily. It's very difficult to get it right, and it is an absolute mire out there by where there are so many agencies who completely outsource their link building to shady organizations, shady businesses. There's good profit to be made by agencies, which is why you see this kind of stuff happening. And where you say it kind of is very time intensive, it is for the agencies themselves, which is why a lot of them will outsource. So yeah, it's really difficult to find some good agencies. Like the main kind of thing, just like to touch on this point before we move on with it, is when you build links, you don't just want to build like spray and pray, like, okay, we'll build 5 links. You want to build a portfolio of links. You want like a portfolio that kind of helps, each link helps each other out. Like no two websites, the websites are different, the sizes of the websites are different. Like,
yeah,
you want a strong link portfolio. You want someone to build you a strong link portfolio. You don't just want spray and pray, all right, we'll build you 5 links, which most of them do. So that's the kind of main thing to kind of try and dig into, whilst also making sure that it's genuine outreach and they're doing it themselves, and it's not like pinged off halfway across the world to someone else to do for a pittance.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're a webmaster, you probably know if you've got like a half decent website, all the emails that you get. I get
Oh yeah.
dozens a day from people asking for links, and it is funny. I'll tell you this one. I got an email from one guy once, and I don't think he was from this side of the world, but he'd used a Western name, and the name he'd chosen to use was Judd Trump. So for any snooker fans out there, Judd Trump is one of the best snooker players in the world. But it's a really unusual name. You're not going to get away with.
Mate, I can do better than that. Obviously, we build a lot of links and we end up like with all sorts of emails. I had one yesterday from Harry Potter.
No way.
Yeah, Harry Potter. Hello, sir. My name is Harry Potter, and I'm looking to build some links. And you're like, what? So yeah, they'll try anything to kind of get their way into your mailbox.
I know. But getting the links yourself, it is like we say,
Yeah.
bit of time involved.
Oh yeah.
But I thought it'd be quite useful to sort of go through the process about how you would do it. And yeah, I think this would be the most useful. So I think the first thing is you've got to try and find websites that are going to benefit your site. So relevant sites, ones that your competitors, they like links that your competitors might already have. You might be able to go and get some links yourself from them. I always find that quite a useful place to start. And then also analyzing what links that competitors have as well, they've just built themselves, just to see what kind of campaigns or tactics and techniques they've used. So Joe, tell us a bit about like that process.
No, you're right. Like analyzing a competitor's link profile is probably one of the first steps you need to take. Not just a competitor though. Like say you're going for a specific keyword, you go for, right, who's ranking number 1? What does their link profile look like? What does their content look like? What does the page look like you want to outrank? Because obviously you need to beat that for a start. But then what does the link profile look like? And then from that, you can kind of think, okay, this is the difficulty of the keyword, or the keywords that you're going for. And it can kind of give you a kind of, or at least give, an agency, this is how much you probably need to invest to crack it.
Yeah.
And this is how many links they've got, the power of the links they've got, the variance of the links they got, the velocity, which is essentially how many links a month they're getting. Or if you really want to go into it, how many links a week they're getting for those huge campaigns with really difficult keywords. Um, so yeah, like that's probably where you'd start. But then you come down to like looking at the individual links, because any website accrues, especially when you're getting up there and you're a fairly well-known business, or a fairly well-ranked website like yourself, you will accrue random links all the time. So when you look at a competitor's link profile, the first thing you have to do is parse out, hey, is this a paid link, or is this one of the rubbishy links that they've accrued? So
Yeah.
easy for me or you to have a look at that and kind of be like, oh yeah, that's clearly a paid link, it's a do follow link, it's an irrelevant website, so on and so forth. But if you're trying to do this yourself, it can be really hard to kind of look through all of them and kind of be like, oh, which ones have they paid for?
Yeah.
The first thing to do is just filter it. Like if you're using SEMrush or Ahrefs, filter it by do follow, because although you can pay for no follow links, and in some cases they're useful, I'm sure we'll talk about that another time. But
Yeah.
usually you want to get do follow links, of course. So filter all the no follows away, and then just look at the ones from the last few months. You can kind of start to work out, like, is the content relevant to the keyword they're trying to rank for, the industry they're trying to rank for, or is it like a crazy directory link from Russia or something? Like it will quickly become apparent. And yeah, going off that, that also becomes a method. So you're not just from that, you're not just kind of getting in your head, okay, this is what I might need to do to beat these. You might also pick a few websites at which you can kind of be like, all right, I know these are offering or willing to place links or content within my industry. And my competitor has them. So that's helped them rank. So maybe I can approach them and kind of, you know, one up the content they have, um, better link strategy. And that's one kind of way of getting and starting off with some links. But the
Yeah.
reality is, by doing that, you're only ever going to match what they've done.
Yeah.
So to take it to the next, do you know what I mean? So to take it to the next level, you need to figure out a way of building more links. So one of the ways you can extrapolate that and take it to the next level, it's not always a good thing, but some people own more than one website within the same niche. So like, I don't know. I know one guy, he owns like an engineering website, which is a really good website, but he also owns a kind of bioscience website. He's got
Yeah.
just a mad passion for the two things he's done in university. Um,
Yeah.
but the competitor, they might have had, I don't know, they want to rank for something in the engineering field. They might have a link on the engineering website. But if you email that webmaster and you just say, hey, I think I can provide you some great value here with this post I'm working on, I'm thinking about doing. Look, eventually you'll have to pay them. It's just the way it works these days. But point being, you say, hey, do you own any other websites, any other relevant websites you own that like I could potentially work with you on that as well?
Yeah.
Because, I think we can do this like twice. And then you can kind of get an extra link that your competitor might not have had. They might do, but they might not. Again, take it a step further. You can kind of say, look, I really want to grow my business. I think it's a good business. We're offering real value to our clients and our customers. Do you know any other websites within your niche that would potentially accept a guest post, or that I could potentially pay for some advertising?
Yeah.
Because the thing is, mate, within these networks, they know each other, they help each other, they work together, and yeah, they compete with each other. These website owners and bloggers and stuff, but a lot of the time they will know of other similar websites that you can kind of push towards and angle towards. So yeah, just from that, okay, what's my competitor ranking for? It can actually explode into like opportunity on opportunity on opportunity,
Yeah.
um, just by entering into that kind of negotiation with the client. And it depends, whoever has done the link building for the competitor, if they've done it themselves, okay, that's going to take a lot of time. They might not have asked these extra questions. If it's an agency and it's a good agency, yeah, okay, they might have asked this. And again, you're still going down the line of, okay, my competitor has these links already, but it's still worth you getting. But most agencies, they won't do this. They'll just slap a link anywhere and crack on. Next link, next link, next link. They won't think about these like relationships because usually these kind of link building agencies, especially the larger ones, they have lists. And for every single client, they'll just be like, okay, that's moderately related to engineering. Let's get a link there.
Yeah.
There. Whereas if you're doing it properly, every single client you have, the research is bespoke. Like, don't get me wrong, you might know of a website and might think, oh, that's going to be a brilliant fit for this new client because
Yeah.
it's a fashion website and this client is in the fashion industry. This is perfect. Of course that happens, you know. But the reality is you need to be doing bespoke research for each website. But yeah, so you know, off the front of it, that's one way of kind of going down the rabbit hole, finding links that you know will work because they've worked for your competitor.
Yeah.
Right? Makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that'll give you a good list usually because if you're looking at the more established websites, they're going to have pretty big lists of referring domains and stuff like that. So if you wanted to go a step further, then what would you do?
Yes. Yeah, this is where it gets difficult because say you go a step further, this is where you're looking at a blank canvas and you're like, okay, I don't know where to look for this link, where to find a website to host the link. Blogger networks. So like where before I was kind of saying, you know, hey, do you know kind of someone else within the area? Like there are blogger networks that you can find that can be local. This is great if you have like a kind of more kind of local business. Because obviously everyone knows the large publications and they're easier to find. And usually they belong to like media networks. So you jump onto that and then you find the media network, it goes bigger and bigger and bigger. But like if you can get blogger awards, there are lots of blogger awards for different categories, like mum blogs, fashion blogs. Just put into Google blogger awards 2021,
Yeah.
2022, and you'll find who's won these awards. And a lot of the times they've won these awards for reasons. It's because like the owner of the website really engages with the website, engages with the readership. They rank for good stuff, and that's a kind of in. That is one way of kind of getting into these kind of fields of people who know each other without having to kind of do this competitive research. Because in some cases, you might look at the competitor and you might not actually find much. You might not actually get very far with it. So going for these like blogger awards and website awards is another kind of, I don't know, another kind of in, if you will, into like
Yeah.
this kind of network of stuff. Another way of doing it off a blank canvas. By this point, you'll probably know what keyword you want to rank higher for. So
Yeah.
like, you know, I don't know, mate. Just any keyword you like, right? This is what I want to build links for. This is what I want to drive. Sometimes you might not. You might just want to build links for the sake of building links because they raise the profile of your website en masse, and it will help you rank for more things anyway. And you know, lots of clients do it that way. But if you have that specific keyword you want to rank for, put that keyword into SEMrush or Ahrefs and have a look at the websites that rank for it. Now, the top 10 are going to be competitors, and you want to have a hope in hell of getting a link there. But when you start getting into the 50s, 60s, 70s, Google has ranked them for a reason. And a lot of the time, they won't be necessarily competing in your field. It might be a blog who has like
Yeah.
mentioned that keyword. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
might be, you know, just like an informational website where they've loosely talked about it and it's just caught, it's just snagged on Google and Google's ranking for it. But as you start getting down there, those websites have a lot of value because they rank for the keyword you want to rank for. Like I was saying about those link inserts in the last podcast. So reaching out to those guys, you might actually get some joy in kind of saying, look, you know, you're a blog, you're not ranking for this keyword because you're selling whatever this keyword pertains to, the service or product. You're ranking for it because you're talking about it, you know, or you're reviewing it, or you're loosely engaging with it.
Yeah.
So, hey, can I pay you for a link? And that's kind of another way of getting a, you know, not even like a link insert necessarily. You don't have to do that, but the fact that they're ranking for that term shows that they have some like they're relatable within the industry. So placing a guest post on that website, awesome. Place a link insert into the content that ranks for that, even better if you can get it.
Yeah.
Again, that's another kind of way of trying to approach people. But by this point, you can kind of see this takes a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of effort. And when you're trying to run a business at the same time,
Yeah.
so many clients come to me and they've tried to do it themselves and they've tried to, and to be fair, some of them have done a really good job. And I'm like, oh, fair play, you've done really well. But inevitably, it takes so much time to do it right and to get it right that it's like, you get to the point where you're like, I'm going to have to try and potentially trust an agency or trust someone to do some of this for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot that goes into it. So that's like the analysis side. And by that point, you've probably got a decent list of people to write to. So the next trick is finding the right person to speak to. Because on some of these websites, they might have
Yeah.
teams. So emails that
Yeah.
get filtered out if you send it through to the contact form. And
Mate, a
there's
lot of them won't even
ways,
have a
isn't it?
contact form,
Yeah, that's another
you
because
know?
they're probably so fed up with getting
Exactly.
emails.
Exactly.
So, how do you go about finding? I know there's tools, isn't there, that you can use to find webmaster emails, like registered emails, for different domains. But how do you approach it, Joe?
You know, I try and be as neutral as possible. In a lot of the cases, they will have contact forms or email addresses to use. If they don't, it's probably because they've hidden the page. So if you do the simple what's the search you can do on Google? Site,
Colon, yeah.
site
Uh,
colon, and then the site's name, and then the space, and then just put contact and whack that in. And usually the contact page will come up and you can go onto it. So it's not, say you go onto the homepage, you won't see it. But
yeah,
if you do that, you can find it. And if you email
nice.
those kind of people, you've taken that extra step, you put that little bit of research in that it usually goes a bit of a way and they will email you back. Um, what I find is when I'm emailing these people, they're providing straight up value. 10 years ago, you might have been able to give them an amazing article and they might have done it for free for you and they might have appreciated the article. Okay, yeah, this might rank. This might bring in some traffic to my website. This is awesome. But
Yeah,
nowadays, they all know the value of a link on a good website. You're going to have to pay. But getting into the inbox is difficult because, like you said, so many people are lowballing. So many people are, trying to get it for free, trying to do link swaps and all this kind of stuff. And like you said yourself, you get like 12 a day. Some get hundreds a day. So what I'd say that in the email, don't mention link building or link buying or anything like that in the subject line. Putting advertising request or advertising query because that is going to be read. Because you could be wanting to advertise directly on their website in other kind of means. But if you get that read and then in the body of the email, a very professional, courteous email, clear what you want to do, at least it's getting read. It's getting read and they're going to reply to you. You're not asking for it for free. You're saying, you say, how much would you charge for this? And then you go on to say, I've got this article. It's relevant to your readers. It's relevant to you. Obviously, there's a link in there. That's, the whole point of this. How much do you charge for this? Don't approach it as hey, can you post this?
yeah,
Because it just doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't work anymore. But
yeah,
to get that email read in the subject query, I always put advertising query or question about advertising because that term advertising, you instantly like link it up to someone wants to pay to put an ad on my website. And that's
yeah,
what we're doing in reality. Like if you cut through it all, that is what we're doing. We're in a way, it's an ad. But yeah, that will get the email picked up. And if you can't find the content of the website, try that. Try and go through it through that kind of um that way. That's what I usually use.
yeah,
And it does usually work. Also, what I'd say as well is if your email address is a business email address, you'll have a lot more chance of it being read than if it's like a Harry Potter at gmail.com.
Judge Trump.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've got a business email, go it that way. The only caveat to that, I use a business email that is not used for anything else because eventually that email you use will get picked up and it might get passed around,
Yeah,
and it might get out there. You know how it goes. They always end up getting out there somehow. Even if you just pick great websites and you don't get anything wrong and you don't email any dodgy websites, it does end up getting out there, and people will email you and they'll say, "Hey, how about my blog? How about my blog? How about my blog?" And 95% of them are rubbish.
Yeah.
Um, but just be know that like it's part of the parcel of the work, and it will eventually get out there, and you'll get a load of spam. So don't use a main email address for it. Try and create one, and if you can, I know it's a pain. Like when it's a business email, set up a new business email. Paying for the extra business email,
Yeah.
but try to use a business email, especially for the ones that are harder to get to. But it just looks so much more professional. Because remember, these people are so used to these like spammy at hotmail.com, at gmail.com, emails coming
Yeah.
through all the time. You might work, you might get through if you've got a Gmail account that you use. But yeah, so to really get into their face and to get your kind of proposal, as it were, so they can read it, make sure you set it up as best you possibly can, because otherwise they're not even going to read it and it'll be a
Yeah.
waste of your time.
I agree there because some of these emails I get now, they're just like rant, like say, Judge Trump emailing at gmail.com. But if it's like a business, I'll be like, all right, these guys, I know they're going to be a bit more serious. They're going to actually have a budget rather than the usual spiel. I was like, oh, well, I've got this really high quality article for you.
Hmm.
Or do you want to link a swap? Or the funniest ones is where you say, oh, this is the price for like posting it. And then they'll come back with something like $5 is like a counter
Yes,
offer.
what
And
a
it's just
waste
like,
of
just
time.
go away, mate. And
Yeah,
then,
and you've hit the nail on the head there, because what you need to do is not mention an amount. So
yeah,
don't be like, I'll give you £5 for this or $5. Say, look, how much do you charge for this? Because,
yeah,
no matter what you offer, it could be a lowball. Like some websites charge 2-3 grand for a link,
yeah,
some charge 200-300, some charge 50. It depends on the industry you want to get a link for, depends on the website you're approaching. It also depends on like how many you like. Well, take early, for example, and you say like, hey, do you own any other websites? And they're like, oh yeah, I actually own this one in the fashion industry, and this one is like a backpack website for backpacks, and this one's for travel. And you're like, hey, okay, hang on, my link is pertinent to all of these websites, and you say, look, okay, you might charge this much for one site,
yeah,
but if I get one on every single one, is there kind of a deal we can do or something? You can't approach them saying that first. You have to kind of start the dialogue off,
yeah,
by saying, look, how much do you charge? Professional, like how much would you charge for a link here? Like you don't say, hey, I'll give you $30 for this. I'll give you £30 for this thing. It's not immediately it'll annoy them, but if you ask them, you appear more sincere, and yeah, you do get those idiots who are like, how much do you charge? And they're like, oh, X amount, a few hundred, £300, £200 or whatever. And they're like, okay, I'll give you £20. It's just like, oh,
yeah,
man, like, and that's what they're used to. So that's what
yeah,
you're competing against, and that's what you've got to do something like try and be as professional as you can to get yourself through
yeah,
that filter, and sometimes literally filter, because so many of these will just go straight into the junk email, you know.
yeah,
But
yeah,
if you set up a business account, you address it to them, it's well formatted, you have so much more chance of that email not going into the spam, not going into their junk, and actually landing in their inbox.
yeah. Like a
Yeah,
professional
so
signature on the bottom of the email as well.
yeah,
You've even
that's
put the
it.
logo in, a link to a website, just
Yeah,
anything to boost people's trust because they're so skeptical of all these lowball negotiators with made up
yeah.
names.
So obviously, you've got the business email address and so on and so forth, like we've spoken about. But I find to really boost their trust, what I do is I'll say, hey, I've got some content for you. Yeah, obviously I'm willing to pay. How much do you charge? And then I might say, this is the content. This is what I've worked on for your website.
Yeah,
There's a risk there, because if you've really got hyper niche down into something, but really hyper niche, and you've approached a website within that niche, and that article only work within that niche, you've put work into that article. And if they say no, it's like, oh man, I've done all this work now. So there's a
yeah,
risk element there. But you can also like not show them the article, and instead say, this is the website I'm going to link to. It's a professional link. It's a good website. It's a
yeah,
professional website. They're a real business. They operate in this place. This is what they rank for. They already rank for stuff. Obviously, if you're a new business, you can't do that. But as long as you kind of got that professional element to it, there's a lot more chance of doing it, because the amount of websites that are in the adult niche, in the casino niche, who are asking normal websites for links, obviously it's not going to happen, but they just get automated, like out, go out, go out, go out, go out. Like my website is an SEO agency, and I get websites from casinos saying, "Hey, can you link to us?" And it's like, obviously not.
Yeah.
But that's what these webmasters are seeing every single day. So if you go up to them and you don't just say, like, "How much do you charge?" Because they might be thinking, "Oh, is this another casino website?" Like, Whereas if you say, "How much you charge?" It's to a backpack website, and it's a travel blog. They go together really well.
Yeah.
So, just being upfront with them and kind of saying, "Look, this is my client, or this is my website. This is what I want to have a link to. This is the anchor I want to use. Is this okay? Does this sit right with you? Do you have any like rules on anchor text? Because so many of them will have certain rules on anchor text, um, or like preferences on anchor text. So like, is this what you like? Is this okay? And how much
Yeah.
do you charge? Rather than kind of being really ambiguous and just being like, hey, how much do you charge for a website? Can I have a link into it? Do you want a link? There's just
Yeah.
to be honest, mate, like if it's one of those things that if you just sit down for 5 minutes before sending the email and look at the website, look at the person who owns the website, and you can just kind of think logically, okay, this is how I'll construct this email. As long as it doesn't sound like it's come from an automated thing and it's not
Yeah.
from a really dodgy email, and you'll be all right. But yeah, there is a skill to it. It is a real pain sometimes when you don't get that email back, and it is always worth following up. Send one off if it's a great site, awesome. Send it off, give them a few days, and then get back to them and just say, "Hey, I was just wondering if you saw the email. How much was it you charged?" And just
Yeah.
offer that. Make sure that offer's there. Make sure like you are like kind of saying, I'm ready to pay. Your site has awesome value, and I'm ready to pay for it. Is what you're saying to them. Yeah.
Nice. That's really good. So we've got the link live. Let's assume. I know there's a
Mm.
few steps that you can ask webmasters to do to make sure you get the most out of that link. And I know one of the most important is getting them to add internal links to this new post because that will bring it into
Mm.
that site structure. We'll get it indexed quicker,
Yeah.
keywords ranked, and hopefully it'll start getting traffic. And like as we discussed in the last episode, if you're adding or you've got a link on a page that's getting traffic, it's going to boost your site so much more.
Yeah, it is more valuable. Like it doesn't always happen, especially when you talking about really competitive niches and keywords. Like it might not get the traffic on the page that you created,
Yeah.
but it's still going to have a ton of value. But yeah, that is important. Yeah, that's something to negotiate once they've come back to you and they've said, okay, this is how much I charge. Is this okay? You might be genuine. You might go back to them and just say, oh, do you know what? My budget is actually this. If that's not
Yeah.
workable for you, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for replying to me. Always be polite. So these guys, they used to getting crazy lowball offers. So some of them will hike their prices up massively. So if
Yeah.
you just, especially like me, like how much a website is worth, what the going rate is for certain websites and if they're trying to like really, really go high, you can just be like, oh, I think this is a more suitable price. They might say, yeah, okay, sure. And then this is when I'll say, okay, cool. Obviously, these are your rules. I'll write the content. We'll get this sorted for you. Um, Here's the content. Can you read this through? Is this okay with the link and everything? Um, Once you've posted it, if it's a guest post now, not a link insert, if once you've posted it, can you just jump into Search Console and mark it for indexation? Because it helps it work quicker. And
Yeah.
also, on this article that I've written, I've actually done a couple of internal links for you. Because I know it can be a real pain internally linking. It takes a long time. It's annoying. But doing that is just going to go so far in their eyes because it's like, oh, hang on, he's done something or she's done something here that's going to benefit their website by internally linking to some other posts of theirs.
Yeah.
Especially if you do a bit of research and you internally link to a page using the keyword that they're trying to rank that page for, you're helping them out. But you say, hey, look, I've added a few internal links here in this content. Um, any chance you can add a couple of internal links to this?
Yeah.
Because I think this could rank for this keyword or that keyword, and I think it could do quite well. And it could bring in some traffic to your website. So yeah, you want to be asking them to, you know, a mark the post for indexation and to internally link to it. If it's a link insert that isn't indexed, if you're inserting the link onto a page that isn't indexed on Google, yes, you 100% need to be saying, oh, okay, I'll pay this much. That's fine. However, part of the parcel of that is I'm going to need you to just request
Yeah.
this index again, because obviously it's dropped off Google's radar. But if you add a strong paragraph to it with the link in, maybe a new picture, a new data table, a new list, something like that, and you mark it for you know, reindexation, it might just get indexed again, and you'll get the
Yeah.
power, you'll get the pull from it. But yeah, like once you've gone through that initial negotiation and you've built up a mini kind of rapport and you've got the content ready or whatever, you always want to be asking for an internal link. Some of them won't do it. They're just like, oh no, we don't do that. It's like, okay, fine. You know, it'll still hopefully do well. And, you know, and if that happens, there are other things you can do to get that rolling. I guess we can talk about it another time, but you can link to that post from somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, it's a
Interesting
pain.
technique.
Yeah, it does work. But yeah, you've got to be careful doing it. But essentially, what you want to do is when you post a link somewhere else, as long as it's not a competitor, that you do it within that article, also link to the post you posted on the website I just mentioned. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that could also help Google index it. But especially if it's on a good website, you know, a powerful website, because you'll get
Yeah.
more worth for it then. It's definitely a kind of strategy that some people use, especially in certain industries. But yeah, so that's essentially what you want them to ask.
Yeah.
If you're doing a link insert and you found an awesome post and that post has any dodgy links in it, like anything to a casino, anything to any adult websites, anything like that, usually you want to just say, look, can you remove these? Ideally, you wouldn't ask for a link there in the first place. But if you can't find anything there, or they have some really strict rules,
Yeah.
and it's like for whatever reason you've identified it, or it ranks for something good, you just want to be looking through it and just kind of saying, hey, you know, please, can you, this is a bit weird. And if you're paying a lot of money for this link, odds on they'll do it. But you have to also recognize that a casino or an adult website is also paid for that link there. So they might not remove it. So it's something to think about. But don't just slap a link into content without looking what that content might or might not rank for and what other links are in that content. That's important. But yeah.
Nice. Well, I think that's a pretty comprehensive coverage of how to find links and approaching the pitches, which are big questions that a lot of people ask. So, Joe, thank you very much for sharing your wisdom there. Really helpful.
No, you're welcome, mate. It's a hard one to answer because, again, like it has so many kind of sub areas to go into and different areas that you can open up on and talk more about, which I'm sure we'll do over, you know, other episodes and stuff. But yeah, it's a big subject, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, definitely. We'll be carrying on in the next episode. We're going to take a look at the actual writing of guest posts because there are certain things you've got to do to make sure that page gets indexed, keywords get ranked, and you get the most for your money. And using anchor text and little techniques you can do, like putting keywords around anchor texts and stuff like that. So we'll be getting stuck into that in a lot more detail in the next episode. But Joe, thank you very much. And thank you everyone at home for listening. Joe, where can we find out a bit more about you and your agency?
Oh, I'm at sequenceseo.com, just a SEO agency in Cardiff in the UK. Yeah.
Nice. And I'm Richie. I'm from Billion Media Digital Marketing Agency. Links for both will be in the description. Well, thank you again for listening, and we'll be back next time with more on backlinks.
SEOscience.com